I can give you the perfect example of why I cannot stand the Democrats. Listen, today there was a vote in the House on legalizing cannabis.
That's what I'm talking about.
And guess who voted for it?
Ron Paul.
No. Just which party? Which party was for it?
Democrats.
Democrats. That's right. Who was opposed to it?
Republicans. Boom, done.
Republicans, in my opinion, are just it's trash. Okay, Donald Trump is very different, and I think most Trump supporters recognize that many of these Republicans are just crony establishment. But hold on. At least at least they're doing very little, and they're kind of ineffectual. Well, you got something to say about Republicans doing something else?
I wanted to finish my point by specifically saying there's too many people profiting off of these lockdowns, off of these restrictions for them to end anytime soon. So we have to understand there's another factor here that we have to understand that when it comes to the billionaires, when it comes to the establishment, when it comes to the ruling class, they are getting way too many benefits from this lockdown for it to end.
Dude, the vaccine company is going to make tons of money.
Pfizer is set to make a lot of money, but we also
billions.
We also have to understand this is a company that literally just came out yesterday, and they said that, quote, this is the chairman of Pfizer. We're not sure if someone can transmit the virus if they take the vaccine. And this is,
you know why
this is a company.
Because they want everyone to take it because, well, everybody might be vaccinated, right? You could still get sick.
Again,
he's saying there's no herd immunity with the vaccine. That's what he's saying, which means everybody must get it.
Or he doesn't know if there is,
Which means everybody must get it.
Yeah.
So apparently, somebody
side.
Google this. Somebody super chatted saying one of the proposals going through right now is that the stimulus will only go to those who get vaccinated.
Whoa, what?
There are proposals by some Democrats saying that if you want to receive the new stimulus checks, there is some writings in some of the legislation. It hasn't passed, but it's being proposed and it's being talked about, and it wouldn't surprise me. And there will be a certificate that people will be getting after getting this vaccine, which was officially announced today as well. But we have to understand here, Pfizer, I think you're right. I think he's making that statement to make sure more people have this general idea that they need this thing. But when it comes to Pfizer, one, they're not facing any liability surrounding this, but this is a company that paid out close to $5 billion since 2000 in damages and fines to individuals, to organizations, and to governments for corruption. This time, they can't do that.
And listen. I know a lot of people want to make it about the vaccine, but this is about transfer of wealth.
Yeah.
What they want is, we want carte blanche for the government to transfer taxpayer dollars to us with zero liability, and that's what they are getting. Mm-hmm. Not just them, but these other companies too. But listen.
And then I just want to go off on a little tangent here, because this is going to be the largest vaccine program that the United States has ever had and has ever dealt with. And I think it's also important to look back in history, especially in American history, at the latest vaccine program that was the largest before this one, and it was the 1976 swine flu, the H1N1 vaccine that 25% of Americans got in a 10-month span. This was because one U.S. soldier at Fort Dix in New Jersey came down with the H1N1 swine flu, and the government then decided to have a full-scale response. Everyone's going to get a vaccine. We're going to fast-track it. We're going to move forward. We're going to make sure that no one gets this H1N1 that we found at Fort Dix, New Jersey, with this one U.S. soldier dying. What happened with this vaccine program? It was very unnecessary because...
What year was it?
1976. Because the virus, H1N1, never left Fort Dix. No one else was affected by this, but they still vaccinated 25% of Americans in a 10-month span, and the vaccine was found to have links with Guillain-Barré syndrome, which has injured a large... Yes. Yeah. Which is, sorry, I'm saying that wrong, has injured a large number of individuals. All of it totally unnecessary, totally made up because a politician said he's going to help everyone, said he's going to fix everything.
We got the official source. We got the official source. I've got Discover Magazine, Certified NewsGuard, and there's a quote. The swine flu program was marred by a series of logistical problems ranging from the production of the wrong vaccine strain to a confrontation over liability protection to a temporal connection of the vaccine and a cluster of deaths among the elderly population in Pittsburgh. Sound familiar?
Yes, exactly.
The most damning charge against the vaccination program was that the shots were correlated with an increase in the number of patients diagnosed with an obscure neurological disease known as Guillain-Barré syndrome. Is that how you pronounce it? Guillain-Barré. There you go. You see, he can't pronounce it, neither can I. So, look,
This was the largest vaccine program in the United States, and now we're about to go through another one. I'm not saying that there's any correlation or any mixes, extremely different circumstances, but it's important to understand here that there is history with the United States doing human experiments.
Well, let me play devil's advocate.
Go ahead, yes, of course.
Is it fair to say that I think we've made substantive developments in the 44 years since it was 1976, right?
There have been many important developments with Big Pharma that has helped a lot of people. There's no denying that. But when it comes to holding this industry accountable, I think there needs to be a lot more oversight, a lot more scrutiny, and a little bit more skepticism because there isn't. Now, is it fair to label it all bad? No.
No. I got to stop you. Yeah. It's all good.
I'm
going to show you an article.
Go ahead.
From Market Watch. Wall Street and finance workers could get COVID vaccines before most Americans.
Yes.
That doesn't prove anything. Again,
no.
Wait. Go again.
If you think there's some risk here, don't worry. They're giving it to Wall Street financiers first.
I say give it to the government officials first, and I think that would solve all of our problems.
Look, I really do mean it when I say I'm not.
Obama, Bush, and some other person are lined up to get the vaccine.
It's Clinton.
Bill Clinton, the guy who said he didn't have relations with that woman, Barack Obama, who drank the water from Flint, right? And the guy who told us that there was weapons of mass destruction are now going to tell me that they're taking this shot that we don't know what it is.
I hope it doesn't work.
Again, one thing that we have to understand here is, again, we can't just paint everything black and white. We can't just say everything's good and bad. There is important middle ground. There is gray zones that we need to look into, that we need to consider. But I do truly believe that we are aware of all the positive sides, but not of the negative sides. And people need to be aware. The United States has a long history of going after human beings that didn't know what was happening and experimenting with them with medical procedures. I could list off a few I have here, and I want to.
But okay,
Tuskegee experiment?
Tuskegee for sure.
Can I get into this list? I mean, we have the CIA LSD experiments that led to people dying. That was covered up. The Tuskegee experiments that happened to hundreds of individuals, and as they were dying, as they became blind, as they became insane because of syphilis that was given to them by a U.S. government grant, they decided not to treat it. And this was all funded by U.S. taxpayers. In 1953 through 1954 and 1963 to 1965, St. Louis was literally sprayed with radioactive particles in order to conduct a military test. Agent Orange in Vietnam, depleted uranium in Iraq, the 1948 Operation Sea Spray, Project 112. Again, I could keep going on and on and on.
DDT.
DDT. There are so many instances where the U.S. government, literally, unsuspecting citizens just said, we're just going to test you with all this different stuff. There's going to be a lot of negative consequences, but we're going to cover it up.
My mom would tell me this.
There's a philosophical question here.
Go ahead.
It's deontological versus utilitarian. Do you think the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few?
It depends on the situation.
That's very hard to say. That's a very blanket,
That's the famous
generalized statement.
Spock quote from, was it Star Trek 2, I think it was? I don't know. Maybe
if the many are destroying everything, then no.
So, the needs of the right. So that's exactly the mentality.
Not when it comes to experimenting.
But if the many are saving the situation, then yes.
Unsuspecting American citizens and testing them with DDT and syphilis. No. In that instance,
listen, that's not what I'm saying.
Benefit
I'm saying
anyone.
right now. Let's say that there is a an increase in certain syndromes, like how do you pronounce it again? Guillain-Barré.
Just say it really quickly so no one knows.
It's great.
You mispronounced it. Guillain-Barré syndrome.
So one of the arguments when there was that big, remember that movie Vaxxed came out or whatever?
Yes.
So I actually went to the CDC and had a big conversation with a lot of people there, and they were very much like, this is ridiculous. And one of the things that I said was, they were like, I want you to think about something. Let's say that 1 in 300,000 people do develop a very severe negative symptom. Now, when they do, it's not always like permanent paralysis. It could just be a minor thing, right? If it does. Is it worth saving the lives of 3 million people if it means that 30 will end up getting some kind of negative impact? There's the questions we have to ask are very difficult.
Yes, of course.
Because we recognize that we want to maximize good. We want to do the right by most people, but it means when you're looking at people like numbers, you'll see that there are going to be people who suffer. But what do? Help no one?
No, you're honest. You don't lie to people.
Oh,
you
for
tell
sure.
them the risks that are involved with
them what
getting
you're
this
doing.
experimental vaccine that history and medical science has never seen before. You tell people what they're getting themselves into. And I was going to ask you, the same CDC that's tied in with special interests, the same CDC that keeps changing their official point of view and stance on the COVID virus
There's a balance. There's a balance.
I mean,
there is. There
is a balance, but
listen,
we deserve a lot more truth. We deserve a lot more accountability. We deserve a lot more information, and we're not getting it. We're getting lies by government officials who think they're better and more important and could tell us and lecture us that we don't need masks when they want to, when they want enough.
There are two kinds of people right now.
Amen.
There are two kinds of people. One that says, I trust the government wholeheartedly no matter what. That's insane.
Yeah.
And the other that say, I never trust the government at all. But in between is the real gradient of people who say, there are certain things I trust and certain things I don't. Certainly people would say, I trust the troops, right?
It depends on what.
There absolutely
if you're in
are
Afghanistan
people,
and if you're
I'm talking about American citizens. Do you trust the government, Luke?
Hell no.
But would you trust a serviceman who said?
It depends. I don't know him.
If there was a guy and you pull up in your car and he stops you and says, "There's a raging wildfire ahead. Please don't go down that way. We're trying to get it secure. We're saving lives." Would you trust him?
Depends on the circumstance and situation. I would actually
You see
try
smoke.
to fact check it
There's
myself.
smoke coming up, and he says, "Stop! If you go there, you'll die. We can't let you do this."
Am I escaping other government agents that want to throw me into
the
FEMA
point
camps?
Is, listen, throw you into FEMA
Is he wearing a badge?
What I'm saying is, at the end of the day, everybody chooses who and what they trust.
Of course.
And there are some people that say to all those things, yes, they happened because the government in the United States has done horrifying things, and many on the left protest a lot of these things. But to
Not
them,
anymore.
Protesting.
Right, it goes back and
Barely.
forth.
Yeah.
Well,
I never learned about it in school or
selective
anything.
protest.
I had to find out on my own.
No one talks about how the U.S. government treats its citizens like just gerbils that they could do whatever they want with. Another issue to really consider and to really talk about is gain of function data. When we're looking at the studies that happen with scientists and the military coming together saying, let's weaponize this virus as much as we can. Let's see how deadly we can make it for absolutely no reason at all. Let's finance this research. Let's make sure it happens in Wuhan. Let's make sure we study this crazy pathogen and let's bring them all together. Let's be mad scientists. Let's create a virus that could destroy the world. Why? Why are we doing this? Why is this? This is gain of function data
why did they
studies
make
that are
nuclear
happening
weapons?
there. There have been no scientific breakthroughs that have actually worked and have actually helped, whether it comes to science or modern medicine, through gain of function studies.
Gain of function is testing like the danger of something.
It's making it as dangerous as possible for potential weaponized purposes.
Yes.
There have been no scientific findings that have actually helped the scientific community. It's literally playing with God. That's what the government
Playing with God?
Playing God. Sorry, playing God, and thinking that you could create something that could essentially wipe us all out. For what reason?
For war. Same
Exactly.
To
nuclear
defend
weapons.
against it, like how do you defend
And
it?
at
Mutually
that
assured
point, I
destruction.
would argue that the government's a little bit too big and powerful, and I think we should step it back a little bit.
Are you going to ignore China?
Of course, I'm not going to ignore China. I've been talking about China for a very long time.
Yes. Listen,
And their specific
this
rights.
is the very serious and inherent problem with coming up and pulling out all the worst possible things the United States has done. Because if you pulled up a list of, say, all the worst possible things China has done, you'd be like, wow, I really trust the American government way more.
This gain of function studies have been done in participation
Yes, I get
with
that.
the United States
Yes.
and China in Wuhan.
And China was smuggling in viruses, and they got caught by the State Department.
Yes.
And Bill Barr, Mike Pompeo, they've been talking about this.
Yes.
There have been many arrests. The point is, look, man, like I said, there's two kinds of people. Some people will look at everything the United States has ever done and say, don't trust the government. And they don't have a view out. Many of these people don't have a view outside of the United States and realize that there are other way more worse things. The point is, what I'm saying is, you've got to find reasonable balance. You don't want to blindly trust anybody. You don't want to blindly trust the government. Like the shirt you said yesterday, if you trust the government, you haven't learned. You learned from history. And they say those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. At the same time, what if what we're experiencing is the other conspiracy, that China was the one who manufactured something like this, and then the U.S. is desperately trying to defend us, and then you're actively opposing that?
Well, that would be a very convenient line.
No, it's not convenient. It's you don't know. We don't know.
Exactly, because they're not honest, and they're not transparent, and they're not accountable.
This is why I say the best thing you can do is, first, I think everything they're doing right now, I find what the government is doing with the lockdowns completely wrong.
Yeah.
In terms of should we social distance? Yes. I don't have a big problem with that.
We could deal with this in a practical way that deals with the elderly, that deals with people who are immune compromised.
And making a vaccine.
I don't high five Tim anymore.
Listen.
Well, it's not even
no,
that.
no more high fives. That's the worst. Listen. They're not coming out and giving you the vaccine. You can't actually get it.
We don't know that yet.
No, we do know.
We see what's happening in Canada. You see what you see in the chief medical officer in Ontario just announced that if someone refuses to take the vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine, they won't have freedom to move around. That's
what I'm
announced
saying
today
is,
by an official government that has disarmed their public.
I am not a fan of mandated medication by anybody. I am not a fan of all the massive corporations just going along with this.
And if you think Democrats won't force it on you, if you think Como and other crazy individuals that are already robbing you blind won't do it on you, it's a little bit naive. Let me be honest here.
You think the government can actually pass a law?
The government is already in an insane level where they are telling people when they could leave their house. The government is already telling people that they can't drive their car by themselves.
That's an issue
They're
of the
telling
people.
their people that they can't even have a paddle board in the middle of the ocean by themselves. That's what the government is enforcing right now.
And the police who are breaking their oath of the Constitution.
Yes, but that's because of politicians telling them to do so. And we already reached the insane level. We already reached a crazy level. And if you think it's going to subside from here with all the power that was granted to these psychopaths, mostly psychopaths, I mean, it's not going to happen. When you give someone power, they love it. They want more of it.
All of this comes down to is that we have a growing escalation between China, Chinese infiltration, the Democrats who are clearly breaking their own rules and don't even believe their own rules, the World Economic Forum, and this election. And this is the point I'm making about the explosive powder keg we are sitting on. Because you can talk about all this stuff, and you know why it's so frustrating? You have no answer to any of this.
I do.
No, what's your answer?
Make memes.
Make memes.
Start your own farm.
That won't change anything. When you come out and say, no to the U.S. government and then open the door to China.
Depends. No, you don't have to open the door to China. You have to be aware of both of these issues. You have to be aware of China on the geopolitical world stage and how they want to be the predominant world power. That is a big threat. I have acknowledged it. We have talked about it extensively. I 100% agree.
So what do you do here in the United States to deal with that?
No, you've been living this. What have you been
what do you
doing
do right now?
last...
What do you do right now to deal with that?
You become self-sufficient, right? As I have.
Yes,
you learn how to farm. You learn how to defend yourself. You learn how to use firearms, which I've been doing at extreme levels this entire year. You learn how to defend yourself and to live outside of any government control, any government influence.
How will that allow a cohesive strategic response to what we're seeing from China?
Well, we're not going to have a cohesive response right now with the Biden presidency that's giving China what they want.
I completely agree. I believe Biden is the capitulation to China. I think what the Democrats are doing is detestable because they're clearly not following their own lockdown rules. So the issue is... 100%. How do we actually deal with it when instead, if listen, there's no good answer other than the keg is going to explode, and everybody has a different opinion on what they think must be done. Okay, so right now you've got people.
What do you think must be done?
I agree with you on the self-sufficiency part. Buying the ammo, learning how to take care of yourself, being responsible for yourself, and I've often felt that way for most part of my life. Right now we are entering a period where I've repeatedly said, and quoting a ton of other people, we are either off the cliff in terms of polarization. The CEO of Axios said the United States is decoupling. It is to the point where you bring this stuff up with a vaccine. First and foremost, you can mention swine flu stuff. I can pull this up. I totally recognize all of this, but I think most people are going to be completely fine because they're rolling it out through the elderly, first the people who have gotten the placebos, then the medical workers, then the most vulnerable people who are at risk of dying either way.
Yes, but we have to understand there's another conundrum here that a lot of people aren't realizing. What's happening in China? China right now is being totally unaffected by this. So is Africa.
All the news we're getting out of China is from the Chinese government. So
well, at the same time, we're getting images of thousands of people without a mask inside of one pole having a party.
We got footage of the Uyghur Muslim camps. But we get footage out of China.
But what happened? What's going on in Africa? Africa is not being as devastated by this sickness as the rest of the world. There's something that absolutely just doesn't make sense.
That's not necessarily
healthy,
true,
man. They eat healthy. They're not sugar indoctrinated like
that's not necessarily true. No one is going there and tracking any of this. There's no great big hospitals writing all the numbers down. Now, I did a segment on the Johns Hopkins University newsletter that said this reporter, her name is Dr. I believe Briand, that when she looked at the year-over-year data, she doesn't see a major spike, and said she believed that heart disease deaths were down and COVID deaths were up, leading to what she believed was an over-exaggeration. But still, a lot of people will look. The reason why this is so frustrating is that everybody makes the leap of assumption. They say, if we're not hearing about in Africa, that's it. And then there's no consideration as to why that might be. So people are saying they deleted this letter. That proves they're censoring it and hiding it. We're not getting data out of Africa. That proves it. It's not real. Or China. Or like you mentioned, China could be lying. They could be welding people's doors shut and pretending like nothing's going on. Or it could be that the Democrats are overreacting, refuse to accept responsibility, and are exploiting this for political gain. They wanted an excuse for no excuse mail-in voting. They got it. There's 1,000,001 reasons. It is so difficult to break down. First and foremost, the most important thing you can do is be self-sufficient, rely on yourself, take care of yourself, and do simple things to keep yourself safe that are within certain reasonable boundaries. Social distancing, wearing a mask is totally reasonable. Like nationwide lockdowns and statewide stay-home orders, completely unreasonable, destroying everything.
I think it's legitimate to start the conversation and ask those questions and to see, wait, what's going on in Africa? What's going on in China? Because we are seeing a very unorthodox situation where I think we should question everything, where I think we should always be asking accountability. But asking accountability from our government is not the same as letting China win. We're not letting China win by holding our government accountable or to a higher standard. America wins when America is strong, honest, and has its people in the know of exactly what's going on. Because when the people know what's going on, we're able to prepare and we're able to make moves in our lives that makes us safe in the future, rather than completely unsafe, completely unprepared. And I was going to family-friendly show here. I'm not going to say the
a well-informed population as a decentralized network will compute correct answers more accurate than a single individual who thinks they're smarter.
And we're not informed. There's a lot of lies. There's a lot of bull crap. No, it's also large elements of the government. It's also large elements of the education system. It's also large elements of the entertainment system,
the establishment,
and the distraction bread and circus system that we have to deal with. And I think criticizing it is essential to making it better, not making China win in some kind of circumstance or way. But I think us standing up, holding our government accountable, and saying, you did this, this, and this, make this right, fix this, tell us the truth right now, will lead us towards a path towards a success rather than capitulation towards China.
And what would satisfy you with the Pfizer vaccine?
Let's release all the data right now about the trials. We're not getting any information regarding the troubles that some individuals are having. There's a lot of data that's absolutely being hidden from the general public about what happened during these studies, the exact data, the numbers, the details. I want to know all of it, and I think we should know all of it, exactly what's happening. But we're being told complications. There's some complications with some people. What is a complication? I want liability for some of these companies. I want to make sure that there's some way, if they egregiously go overboard and abuse their power like they have before, that there is some kind of system where there could be some retribution for a horrible act. Now, I'm saying they still need legal protection. They still need to be protected in a way, because if they face too much liability, they won't be able to do anything. But there's a middle ground towards being egregious, towards hurting people, and knowing you're going to hurt people.
All right.
There's a middle ground here. Go ahead.
Should people get the vaccine?
Again, everyone has their own life, and they should educate themselves about this issue and make their own decision for themselves. I'm not in a place to tell people what to do. I wouldn't be telling people what to do. I would tell people to do their research, do their homework, and when the data comes out, and hopefully we find out exactly what's happening during these trials, which we're not right now, then I think we can make a better decision. But until that happens,
tell me the good things about. Tell me some good news about the vaccine.
I don't know. I mean, they're talking about how this is a first of its kind that has never existed, that will essentially trick your body into thinking that this has. And if let's play devil's advocate here. If this is an incredible medical breakthrough, if this is something that helps people, I will be the first one to say after the data comes out that this is something that's good. But
so right now, there's
a possibility. There's a possibility for either way.
Yes, tons of public information saying it's good. Very little saying it's bad.
Tons of
You've chosen the negative side of things.
No, I've chosen to look at history as an example of what could potentially happen, and I've chosen to understand that either outcome could happen. And I'm telling people, do the research before making that very important decision for yourself.
What do you research? What do you read?
What do you mean?
Like to figure out.
I feel like I'm being interrogated right now.
You are.
Because I'll tell you this.
Where's the Bible?
Because
Am I putting my hand on the Bible?
Because hold up on your phone.
Because the issue I see is,
yes,
you can tell me every negative thing in the world, but you can't tell me anything that's positive. You can't.
Well, no, I just told you in this podcast, I told you that there have been medical breakthroughs by big pharma that have had a substantial, amazing effect on individuals dealing with sicknesses that they never. No. I mentioned both. No, I mentioned both. I mentioned that there have been amazing, incredible findings by big pharma that would have never happened if it wasn't for them, that have helped a large number of people. Have there been also abuses with the opioid epidemic? Hell yes. But the only way to prevent a lot of the pain...
So what could someone research to make sure they're making the right choice?
That's a very good question. I would look at the first official line of version of events that the government says. Let's see what they say. Let's see what Pfizer says. Let's see the claims that they're making here. Now let's test it on the backdrop of people who criticize them, people who are the most vocal about it. And then you have two sets of data. And then you're going to make up your mind whether you like this one or that one based off experience, based off time, based off events that unfold.
I had someone email me telling me that there's a secret war going on in Frankfurt over security servers, Dominion voting machines. And when they do research, that's what they find.
Well, exactly.
The problem is people choose who and what they trust.
Exactly. There's no denying that. I'm not denying that.
So ultimately what it comes down to is talk to your doctor. And if you don't trust your doctor, well, then you got to find a new doctor.
My ultimate question is to use reason, logic, and multiple sources, multiple doctors.
Have you ever gotten a vaccine?
MMR?
I'm not sure, because when I came to this country as an immigrant, I'm not sure if I got vaccinated or not. I think I did. Listen. But I got tested for my vaccines. I had my blood drawn, and they said that I have no kind of vaccines in me.
I understand.
I don't remember. I was a little kid.
The concerns over the speed at which the vaccine is being put out are shared by Democrats. Like I mentioned before, it's, I think it was like Biden, Kamala, and Cuomo were all like, I'm not going to trust this thing. I'm going to wait a little while. And then there was a bunch of stories that came out through like CNN saying when polls come out, most people, like around a little bit less than half, say they're willing to wait.
40% of medical professionals are saying that they're going to wait as well.
Right.
And I think I'm bringing that to a logical thing to do.
To be fair.
Yep.
The other issue I have is I received, when I mentioned this before, when I traveled, like 5 vaccines in one day. And as far as I can tell, maybe something happened. I don't know. Maybe it made me really smart and successful with YouTube. I have no idea.
Spider-Man
I seem to be fine, healthy, strapping young lad. I feel great. Feel great. Life's good. And the issue is recognizing the speed at which this one's being brought out and the bipartisan concerns over the rate at which it was produced. That's a normal thing people have. Is like, should I not have trusted going to the doctor the last time when the doctor says this is what we're going to do? Trust me.
No one said that. No one said that.
What do you mean? There's a lot of people who say that.
Yes,
there's tons of there's a whole movement of people
crazy
saying
stuff.
Right.
Of course. But even if you look at Vaxxed, their position wasn't all vaccines are bad. It was some of them are rushed. Some of them should be done at a longer interval. Some of them should wait, especially if babies are receiving them. And it was acknowledged that some vaccines are actually good for you. I don't know if you watched Vax, but there was an element of that I think is important to look at and to examine yourself as an individual.
What I've learned about the older vaccines, not this one, which is an RNA vaccine. Apparently, they don't put the virus in it. They give you something new. So research RNA vaccines and find out. But the old vaccines, what they do is they'd take blood and then they'd filter the virus into the blood. But they could only make the filter so small because they had to let the virus through. So other things that were the same size as the virus or smaller would get through the filter. And sometimes you get tainted vaccines as a result.
So you're saying this improvement could help keep out contaminants and things like that?
Maybe.
I'm not saying I want to shill for Pfizer. What I think about this is, my immediate personal bias and assumption is that it's not a great breakthrough. It's them pulling out the old vaccine and being like, we could easily crank something out for a coronavirus. We're going to make so much money off these dumb people. The governments are going to transfer all their wealth right into our pockets. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. So come back to check us out when we go live. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and we are also available on all podcast platforms for free if you want to listen to us there. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all next time.